When disaster strikes, there's no time to waste. Every second counts, and only those who are prepared will have a fighting chance. A catastrophic attack on the mainland could cut off supplies, devastate infrastructure, and leave millions scrambling for survival. Are you ready to protect your family when chaos erupts? Now is the time to take action. To help you stay ahead of the worst, we've compiled 10 essential preps you need to stockpile immediately. These items could mean the difference between life and death. Keep reading, and don't forget to subscribe to stay informed and prepared for the unthinkable. 1. Water supply. When disaster strikes and the comforts of modern infrastructure fall to the wayside, water becomes the most precious resource. Imagine the grid collapsing, rendering taps dry, rivers contaminated, and store shelves barren. Without water, survival dwindles to a time frame of mere days. Are you prepared to face such a reality, where every sip could mean the difference between life and a slow, agonizing death? The first rule of surviving any catastrophic attack is ensuring an adequate water supply. Experts recommend stockpiling at least 1 gallon of water per person per day, enough for both drinking and basic sanitation. For a family of 4, this quickly scales to a staggering requirement: 30 gallons for just 1 week. How much will be enough when you're cut off indefinitely? Store your water in durable, food-grade containers, tightly sealed to avoid contamination. Never underestimate the need for redundancy. If a single storage container fails, your preparations could be helplessly sabotaged. But even the most carefully stored water can run out. That's when water purification becomes your salvation, or your last desperate gamble. The world after an attack won't be kind to those unprepared. Lakes and rivers that once seemed safe could quickly fill with pollutants, biological waste, or even lethal chemical runoff. Stockpile purification tools like water filters, chlorine tablets, or UV purifiers now, because later, every source you find may become a gamble with your life. Above all, remember this horrifying truth. In such a scenario, clean water will decide not only your survival but your dignity. Dehydration is a cruel, pitiless killer. It saps your will, your strength, and eventually your mind. Without preparation, you're not just risking discomfort, but condemning yourself to join the chaos of the unprepared masses fighting for scraps. The time to act is now. Do not underestimate the importance of water in fortifying your defenses against the unimaginable. Stockpile it, safeguard it, and ensure your family's survival when every drop becomes a treasure worth killing for. 2. Non-perishable food. When disaster strikes and chaos descends upon the mainland, non-perishable food can mean the difference between survival and surrender to the unimaginable. Imagine a world where grocery stores are stripped bare, supply chains collapse, and hunger gnaws with relentless ferocity. This is not a possibility, it's a certainty in the wake of a catastrophic attack. Stockpiling non-perishable food now is your insurance against the horrors of starvation and the desperate fight for dwindling resources. The first step is knowing what to store. Prioritize versatility and longevity. Canned goods such as beans, vegetables, and meats are essential staples. They offer durability, extended shelf lives, and complete meals in a pinch. Freeze-dried meals should also top your list, as they are lightweight, easy to prepare, and nutritionally dense. Include a mix of dried grains like rice and quinoa, along with powdered milk, pasta, and vacuum-sealed nuts. These items will provide critical energy to keep you, your family, and anyone in your circle alive when every calorie counts. But survival isn't just about stashing food, it's about choosing wisely. Pay attention to nutritional value. You aren't stocking for luxury, you are preparing for necessity. Look for foods high in protein, calories, and essential vitamins. Avoid overly sugary or empty-calorie items. A temporary sugar boost won't sustain you as the nights grow colder and your body weakens from stress. Choose survival over indulgence because, in the aftermath of an attack, indulgence is a memory of the past. Storing your stockpile also takes calculated care. A cool, dark, and dry environment is non-negotiable. Temperature swings and moisture can quickly turn your lifeline into a graveyard of inedible waste. Rotate older items to ensure freshness over time, and vacuum sealing food can buy you years of extra peace of mind. Your non-perishable food cache is more than sustenance. It's a weapon against desperation in the darkest hours. When the unthinkable becomes reality, this is what will keep fear at bay and what will keep you alive. Prepare now, before it's too late. 3. Medical supplies. When preparing for a catastrophic attack on the mainland, medical supplies should be one of the most crucial components of your stockpile. The chaos and devastation that follow such events can overwhelm medical infrastructure, leaving countless individuals without access to proper care. You cannot afford to rely on hospitals remaining operational or emergency services being available when disaster strikes. Having the right medical supplies on hand could mean the difference between life and death for you and your loved ones. Start with a comprehensive first aid kit. This should include bandages, wound dressings, antiseptics, scissors, gloves, and a guide for emergency medical procedures. Accidents and injuries are inevitable when the world plunges into disarray. And without these items, even a small wound could turn into a deadly infection in such dire conditions. Stock up on over-the-counter medications like pain relievers, anti-inflammatory drugs, and treatments for stomach issues and allergies. The more prepared you are for minor medical emergencies, the better your chances of surviving the early days of a catastrophe. For those with chronic conditions, the stakes are even higher. Imagine being cut off from your usual supply of life-sustaining medications, whether it's insulin, blood pressure pills, or asthma inhalers, and realizing that no reinforcements are coming. Ensuring you have at least a 6-month reserve of these medications is absolutely critical. Consult your doctor now, not tomorrow, to discuss options for stocking up and safely storing these essentials. Finally, consider additional items that you might not immediately think of. Do you have an emergency dental kit in case of a tooth infection? What about supplies for managing common illnesses like the flu or strep throat? Prepare for scenarios where professional medical help will not be an option. Your survival could depend on it. The grim reality is this: when a catastrophic attack occurs, it's not just society's structures that crumble, but also its ability to provide the most basic life-saving care. Do not underestimate the urgency of assembling a robust stockpile of medical supplies. 4. Power and lighting. Imagine a night so dark that even the shadows seem to vanish. No streetlights, no hum of electrical devices. Nothing but a crippling, cold silence blanketing everything. A massive attack on the mainland could sever our power grids in an instant, plunging cities into inky darkness. Without adequate preparation, this oppressive void could mean the difference between life and death. Stockpiling power and lighting solutions becomes an absolute necessity to survive in such a scenario. Backup power sources like generators are the lifeline you will depend on in the aftermath. Without them, essential devices, radios, heaters, medical equipment, would be rendered useless, leaving you completely disconnected and vulnerable to the chaotic world outside. Solar chargers could prove invaluable when fuel supplies for generators dwindle. Their reliability depends only on access to sunlight, which might become your sole source of energy in the days and weeks that follow the disaster. But beware, the harsh new reality could turn neighbors into competitors desperately scavenging for anything they've failed to prepare themselves. Equally vital is securing sufficient lighting options. When darkness falls, the world becomes a breeding ground for unseen dangers. Flashlights with extra batteries are an absolute must for every member of the household. Lanterns provide a broader range of illumination and are ideal for lighting larger spaces. Candles, though old-fashioned, could be a last resort, but their open flames come with risks. The flickering light could attract unwanted attention, and a single misstep might ignite a fire among already precious supplies. Above all, never underestimate the safety precautions required. The improper use of power sources such as gas generators could lead to deadly carbon monoxide poisoning, turning your safe haven into a death trap. Always have backup ventilation in place. Similarly, lighting options must be safeguarded from misuse or accidents, as fire spreads rapidly in enclosed spaces. Failing to plan for power and lighting during a catastrophic attack isn't just careless, it's suicidal. Prepare, stockpile, and guard these resources like your life depends on them, because it does. 5. Communication devices. When catastrophe strikes, the ability to stay informed and connected can mean the difference between life and death. Communication devices serve as your lifeline in the aftermath of a catastrophic attack, where chaos and confusion reign supreme. Traditional communication networks, such as landlines, cell towers, and internet services, may be devastated in such an event, plunging entire communities into a chilling silence. This is why you must prepare now before it's too late. Radios, particularly NOAA weather radios and hand-crank or solar-powered options, should be at the top of your stockpile list. These devices ensure you'll still receive critical updates, including emergency broadcasts, disaster alerts, and instructions from authorities. Emergency radios are essential because, unlike fragile internet connections, they rely on resilient broadcasting systems that can operate even during widespread infrastructure collapse. For more advanced communication, a satellite phone becomes indispensable. While costly, these devices bypass downed local networks and connect directly to satellites orbiting high above the planet, keeping you in touch with loved ones or emergency responders, no matter how severe the destruction is on the ground. Without access to such technologies, you may find yourself isolated, vulnerable, and blind to the threats closing in around you. To make sure your communication devices function when you need them most, keep backup batteries, solar chargers, or power banks on hand. The darkness of a post-attack world might stretch for days, weeks, or even months, and without power, these devices are rendered useless dead weight. Regularly testing your devices and practicing their use is just as important. Imagine fumbling with unfamiliar equipment amidst the terror of an unfolding disaster. Now imagine the silence of a world disconnected. No news, no voices, just despair and uncertainty. Without reliable communication devices, that silence may become your chilling reality. Prepare wisely, or risk disappearing into the void as the world spirals into chaos. 6. Personal protection equipment. When catastrophe strikes, survival hinges on preparation. And the stark reality is this: without the right personal protection equipment, PPE, you're defenseless against invisible threats. Masks, gloves, and goggles aren't just accessories. They are your last line of defense against airborne toxins, chemical agents, and infectious pathogens that could ravage unprepared populations. Do not underestimate the savagery of what could linger in the air, on surfaces, or even on your skin. The insidious nature of biological and chemical warfare means you won't see the enemy approaching. It will invade silently. Each piece of PPE plays a critical role in safeguarding your life. Masks, particularly N95 respirators or higher-grade alternatives, filter out hazardous particles and shield your lungs from noxious gases or deadly infections. Gloves, preferably nitrile or latex, protect your hands from coming into contact with contaminated objects or surfaces. But remember, bare hands mean fatal mistakes. Goggles help seal your eyes from chemical splashes or microscopic invaders waiting to exploit even the smallest vulnerability. The world in chaos offers no forgiveness for improper preparation. Situations where PPE becomes essential range from biological pandemics to chemical attacks or nuclear fallout. Imagine stepping into an area where the air itself burns your throat. Picture touching a door handle and unknowingly spreading devastation to your own face. These are not exaggerations, but potential realities in catastrophic attacks. Knowing what's at stake, you cannot afford to second-guess the necessity of PPE when venturing into danger zones. However, possession alone isn't enough. Proper usage and storage determine survival. PPE must be worn correctly to provide maximum protection. Even a slight gap in a mask's fit could make all the difference. Gloves must be disposed of safely to prevent contamination. And all gear needs to stay in a clean, dry, and accessible location for immediate use. Neglecting these measures diminishes your chances of survival. When chaos engulfs the mainland, PPE could be the barrier that stands between life and grisly devastation. Stockpile now, or risk facing the nightmare ill-prepared. You only get one chance to shield yourself when the nightmare becomes real. 7. Shelter and warmth. When disaster strikes and the safety of your home is ripped away, having proper shelter and warmth could mean the difference between life and death. The harsh reality of a catastrophic attack on the mainland is that surviving outdoors without adequate preparation can expose you to deadly conditions. Without a safe and insulated space, the bitter cold and unpredictable weather could cripple your chances of survival, or worse. To ensure you don't succumb to the unforgiving environment, you must prioritize shelter and warmth as an essential part of your preparation. Start with a reliable tent built to withstand storms, wind, and extreme temperatures. Weak or flimsy gear will fail when the elements are at their worst, leaving you defenseless. Complement your tent with high-quality sleeping bags designed for sub-zero conditions. Don't be deceived. The wrong sleeping bag can leave you shivering through the night, vulnerable to frostbite or hypothermia. Thermal blankets are a life-saving addition to your stockpile. These compact, reflective blankets trap your body heat, stabilizing your temperature in emergencies. Layer them with other gear to maximize warmth in the cruel, cold aftermath of disaster. You can never have too many when the world around you becomes an unrelenting freeze. Survival isn't just a matter of having gear, but knowing how to use it. Position your shelter wisely, protected from wind and rain, ideally near a natural barrier. Line the ground beneath your setup with leaves or other insulation to avoid losing body heat to the frozen earth. When the temperature plummets, every choice you make is a gamble with your survival. Do not underestimate the weather's role following a catastrophic attack. The lack of proper shelter will expose you to illnesses, frostbite, and exhaustion as your body fights against the elements. Warmth isn't just comfort, it's your lifeline. Stockpile smart, or risk becoming another grim statistic in the aftermath of the unthinkable. 8. Sanitation and hygiene. When disaster strikes and chaos grips the mainland, maintaining sanitation and hygiene becomes the thin line between survival and succumbing to disease outbreaks. The collapse of infrastructure, including waste disposal and clean water systems, transforms emergency zones into breeding grounds for deadly pathogens. Without proper preparation, you could soon face catastrophic health hazards such as cholera, dysentery, or skin infections, all of which could claim lives faster than the event itself. To fortify yourself against these terrifying threats, assembling a cache of hygiene essentials is non-negotiable. Stockpile a robust supply of toiletries, including soap, toothpaste, toothbrushes, wet wipes, and feminine hygiene products. Do not underestimate the power of a multi-purpose cleaning agent. Bleach can purify water in small amounts and disinfect surfaces harboring dangers you can't even see. Add gloves, masks, and sanitizers to your list, as they will shield you from invisible killers that thrive in unsanitary conditions. But hygiene does not stop at personal cleanliness. Waste management becomes a ticking time bomb in emergencies. Without proper disposal solutions, human waste attracts pests and spreads disease like wildfire. Prepare sturdy trash bags, buckets with tight lids, and, if possible, portable toilets. Be meticulous about separating waste and keeping it far from your water sources. Always remember, neglecting waste management is an invitation for sickness and misery. To further your chances of survival, practice disease prevention measures that demand vigilance and discipline. Never consume untreated water. Boiling or using purification tablets becomes mandatory. Handle food with utmost caution. Rancid or poorly stored rations can end you faster than starvation. And avoid physical contact with others who visibly exhibit signs of illness, even if they are loved ones. In a survival scenario, emotions take a back seat to survival instincts. Hygiene in catastrophe is not just a practice. It's your defense against an unseen enemy. Fail to prepare, and you'll find yourself battling not just the fallout of the attack, but an onslaught of infections that could haunt you until the bitter end. 10. Tools and equipment. When catastrophe strikes and the very fabric of civilization begins to unravel, having the right tools at your disposal could mean the difference between life and death. Tools and equipment are not just conveniences. They are survival essentials in the chaos that follows a catastrophic attack on the mainland. Without them, even the most rudimentary tasks could become insurmountable challenges, leaving you vulnerable to the unforgiving darkness of an apocalyptic scenario. Essential tools for survival and repairs must be a core component of your stockpile. Imagine the grid failing, water systems collapsing, and structures crumbling around you. You'll need hand tools like hammers, saws, and screwdrivers to make critical repairs to your makeshift shelter or barricade entry points against desperate marauders. Don't forget about a crowbar. You might need it to pry open locked doors or access vital supplies in abandoned structures. A sturdy shovel is another versatile must-have, whether you're digging a fire pit, building defensive trenches, or disposing of waste safely away from your living area. When it comes to multi-purpose tools, versatility is everything. A high-quality multi-tool or Swiss Army knife can serve as your lifeline in dozens of scenarios, cutting, sawing, opening cans, and even lighting a fire if it includes a flint rod. Axes or hatchets are worth their weight in gold, helping you chop firewood for warmth or clear overgrown brush to create an escape route. If you think you won't need all these tools, think again. Limitations can cost you dearly in a world where resources are scarce and help is non-existent. But survival tools are only as good as their condition. Maintaining and storing tools is critical to their long-term usability. Rust is not just an inconvenience, it's a death sentence for your gear. Clean and oil metal components regularly, and ensure tools are stored in a dry, secure location. Keep an inventory list and check each item periodically, because a malfunctioning tool at a critical moment could seal your fate. The message is clear. Tools are not optional. Tools are survival. Get them, maintain them, and ensure they're ready to serve you. If you fail to prepare this aspect of your stockpile, the world will devour you without hesitation.